talk about a laundry list of tariffs. Shri, look at that. In the US, they used to call it leaderboards as well, especially in all the sporting, in sporting terminology. There's a leaderboard of tariffs that Trump literally physically held out. And when he is explaining the amount of tariffs that are being levied on American goods being exported into other countries, it sounds logical, isn't it? Why would a country which is being charged, for example, some countries charge 90% tariffs on American imports, so it only seems logical that he wants to levy reciprocal tariffs, but we all know what it means for global markets. I mean, let's talk India specific. India's markets, along with global markets, were affected just yesterday in expectation of tariffs to kick in. Now he's given dates. There's going to be April 5th is a date from where the tariffs will begin. And then there's an April 9th date as well. So which means we're looking at a prolonged period of turmoil in global markets.
Right, and April 3 for all auto cars, autos and auto parts. So what we are seeing around the world right now due to the Trump tariffs, Liberation Day tariffs, Krishna, is uncertainty of how these tariffs will actually play out. Will we see a global trade war getting triggered because of a US, move? Because I think it's fair to say that countries which are impacted by American tariffs will probably not take it lying down. They will retaliate, especially China. Because I think the tariff is really crippling, the one that's been imposed on China. 54% is really disastrous for China. So you will see action from China, you will see action from other countries. Canada's already said, Japan's already said that we will retaliate as needed. So India, on the other hand, I think we have taken a very measured, tone on this. We are not getting into a retaliatory tariff war with US. Rather, we are looking at a negotiated bilateral a deal which protects both the interests. Because I think at some point India also sees the American point of view that there is a certain imbalance, and India wants to do as much as possible. The only sore point would be our agricultural produce, because let's not forget that India is like, the Indian farmer is a very small, fragmented landholding farmer who's vastly poorer than your typical American farmer who owns, thousands of hectares, does mechanized farming. Whereas in India, I think most of them are involved in subsistence farming. So I think the government is sensitive to the fact that if we were to open up produce, American produce, Indian market to American produce, then the impact on Indian agriculture could be quite devastating, and it might mean that millions of our farmers are impacted and don't have even money to survive. So that's a concern which India will be sensitive to. So we might see India making concessions on other fronts.
Right.
Krishna, in some sense, in a perverse way, I think this might actually be good for India. Let me explain why.
Interesting. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things high tariffs do, particularly for industry, it's that makes them lazy. It makes them protected. So the incentive for industry to innovate, to become more efficient every year is vastly reduced when they know that they're operating in a protected market. Now, if I know that I have to deal with a situation where I'm going to compete with other exporters coming from elsewhere who are far more efficient than we are as manufacturers in India, then I have a greater incentive to actually buckle up and then start looking at where are my inefficiencies and where can I start, becoming more efficient, and how do I make products that are not only great quality but also at a price which is competitive in the marketplace. I think one thing which the government of India will do is basically look at our entire regulatory framework for ease of doing business, especially for small and medium enterprises, because SMEs are the backbone of Indian manufacturing, as you know. More than a third of our exports come from SMEs. Disproportionate employment happens in SME. I think it's almost 2/3 of employment is in SMEs. So I think what the government will do in the short term is to look at how can we make doing business easier for our SMEs, our manufacturing companies, so that they become more efficient. The economic survey also talked about deregulation of the business rules So I think that will probably come into focus going ahead, and we'll see a lot of action in the months ahead on that, Krishna. That's my bet.